Hey everybody, let us recap the game from Saturday Night Football, December 30th. The Cowboys barely beaten the Lions 20-19. A really stupid 2-point conversion got wiped off the board. Like a great 2-point conversion, but a stupid call. Because the lineman for the Lions absolutely reported as eligible. And they tried to do this thing where they disguised it, where they had Penei Sewell also go with Taylor Decker, and then they had Dan Skipper run in also to kind of give some illusion to the guys who aren't paying attention when the ref says, hey, 70 declared or 68 declared eligible is what they wanted to do. So the whole purpose was to be like, hey, we don't really know based on what we're seeing, so we have to listen. Like, they're basically making the defense listen really closely to what the ref is saying as to who's reported eligible, because they basically sent their left tackle out for a pass, and it would have been legal if the refs were paying attention to who was declaring and who wasn't, but it sounds like that officiating crew has had some issues in the past. They've had a bunch of missed calls this year, so hopefully they don't make the playoffs, and hopefully we can see some adjustments to that officiating crew going forward. Jared Goff was 19 of 34, 271 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. He didn't have any rushing work. Going into next year, this offense is going to be built on running the football. Jared Goff is going to be very up and down next year, just like he was this year, especially with Jahmyr Gibbs coming on next year. He's going to be picked very highly. So this is going to be a team that runs the football. When they do throw, it's going to be to Sam LaPorta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll see if they add another receiver in the offseason, but in my opinion, we should just plan on this team being built mainly around running the football with Jahmyr Gibbs. And David Montgomery isn't going to go away either. He was the leading rusher in this game. 14 carries, 65 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Wasn't able to haul in his only target. Jahmyr Gibbs had more carries than him, but just less efficient. 15 carries for 43 yards. Had one catch for 0 yards, 3 targets. Hopefully in the coming years we'll see more consistency from Jahmyr Gibbs in the receiving game. And I'd like to see Jameson Williams turn a corner a little bit this offseason as well, because he flashed some things toward the end of this year. So maybe they get him going as well. He's going to be a popular sleeper pick. Jameson Williams will be going into next year for sure, because there's a hive out there who believes in him 100%. I heard it throughout this year as well. So, and I don't really think Jameson Williams is a bad player. I just don't think that they're going to prioritize him as much as they do LaPorta and St. Brown. But we'll see the kind of strides that he makes in the offseason. I'm sure there'll be lots of reports of him really impressing in training camp with his speed. LaPorta, he had 7 catches for 84 yards on 12 targets. He is going to be in the conversation for tight end 1 next year. With Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, all these guys, Trey McBride. These are going to be the guys who get discussed as George Kittle, maybe a little lesser than George Kittle because he's a little bit more hot and cold, but he's going to be in that top 5, absolutely. Great asset in Dynasty. Keep an eye on him. Definitely someone you want to think about keeping as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 catches, 90 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Excuse me. He also had 8 targets. This is low targets, but he was still able to have just a monster day from it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best assets in Dynasty right now. Even if they add another receiver, I don't really think they'll add another receiver because they have Jameson Williams who can potentially turn a corner. They have Jahmyr Gibbs who they can use more in the passing game. So I think going forward, this is still going to be the Amon-Ra St. Brown show through the air. So expect him to be drafted very high next year as well. Khalil Dorsey, he had a catch for 31 yards. Josh Reynolds, he had a catch for 13. Khalif Raymond had a catch for 11. James Mitchell, the tight end, had a catch for 4 as well. So really the only guys, like Jameson Williams is a very interesting dynasty hold. But other than that, the only guys I think are going to be on the radar next year are Gibbs, Montgomery, LaPorta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and to a lesser extent, Jared Goff and David Montgomery. Montgomery is going to be involved. I just think going into next season, all the hype is going to be around Jahmyr Gibbs. So look out for that. For the Cowboys, Dak Prescott was 26 of 38, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. He also had 2 carries for 5 yards. Another guy, he gets underrated every single year in the offseason, so I think you're set if you have Dak Prescott as your quarterback. Moving forward in Dynasty, Tony Pollard was a huge disappointment this year. 16 carries, 49 yards, only had one catch for 0 yards. You're going to be selling him at his lowest point. It's going to be interesting to see if this team starts to use Deuce Vaughn more next year. Maybe Rico Dowdle they start to use a little bit more next year because Tony Pollard struggled so much. That'll just have to be something that we watch. I think it's going to be a prevailing thought in fantasy because I still think Pollard's going to be drafted high because he had so many carries this year. But the thought is going to be, hey, I bet he's going to be on a bunch of do not draft lists because Deuce Vaughn's going to come on in his second year. Rico Dowdle showed some flashes this season. The Cowboys have options at running back, so it isn't necessarily just going to revolve around Tony Pollard in the future. Deuce Vaughn, I think, is a really good dynasty hold. CeeDee Lamb, he had to carry for 5 yards, also had 13 catches, 227 yards, a touchdown, and 17 targets. He was unbelievable at the end of this year. So, obviously, we're holding him in dynasty, probably playing him every single week next year as well. He's going to be highly coveted going into the drafts next year. Brandin Cooks, it's going to be interesting to see what this team does with him in the offseason. 5 catch, 60 yards, and a receiving touchdown. This is a really good line. They didn't get a whole lot of consistency from him this season, though, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were going to move off of him, and Brandin Cooks would just continue to keep bouncing around the league. He's a good receiver, but his role just isn't something that you need to just completely hold on to because it can be so hot and cold. He's smaller. You're kind of limited by his height there. All the speed, all the explosion in the world, really refined route runner, but just his limitations vertically are going to, like in height and high pointing balls are going to be, or it is why he can't really stick onto teams. Like what he does is very in demand. It's just not something that you need to be like, hey, Brandin Cooks is the only one who can do this. There's going to be a lot of guys who do what Brandin Cooks does. So he may be one of the best at doing it, but at the same time, it's just not something that's very rare what Brandin Cooks adds to the table. Jake Ferguson, 4 catches, 33 yards on 6 targets. They drafted Luke Schoonmaker in the second round this year, and they also have Peyton Hendershot who they like. So I think Jake Ferguson's going to be a little bit overrated going into drafts next year. He had some flashes for sure, but he's been pretty touchdown dependent for the most part. So look out for him being overrated going into next season. Absolutely. Deuce Vaughn, he had the catch for 10 yards. Jalen Tolbert had a catch for 9. I don't think you need to hold Tolbert at all. Peyton Hendershot, I wouldn't hold him either because I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Schoonmaker or Ferguson. And Pollard wasn't able to haul in his only target. So that's going to do it for me, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Follow @WeAreDrafting on Instagram. Shoot me a DM if you have any questions for Monday's games. Sunday's games are going on right now, so I'll go finish watching those. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later.